Wow. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow. Yeah. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah. How you guys doing out there? Thanks for tuning in once again. Appreciate everybody that's here. Thanks for taking the time to hear me read again. I have, um, well, actually, I wanted to continue reading this book that we actually read before. About a year ago, we started reading uh, about the first four chapters, and I was gonna get back to it, and I hadn't. So definitely want to get back into it. Okay, so we're gonna continue where we left off. We have a lot of drop from part one. I'll go ahead and show you and remind you guys what video that is. Thanks for again tuning in. We're gonna get right into it. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to all the moderators, all my Patreon supporters, all my members, all the new members. Thank you for all your support. Appreciate it very much. Much love, much love. Yeah, wow. So yeah, you can head over to my channel. Just want to remind you, you can join the members club right there on my channel. Get a couple little cool perks and recognition, and you'd be supporting me if you can't make it over to the Patreon. But I also wanted to show you guys in the home page, you see a list of tabs here, and you would see lives. A lot of people says they're missing a lot of parts is because they're not checking the live tab. So make sure to check out the live tab. There is videos there as well. All my live videos, really good videos too, so you don't want to be missing out on. All right. And also the playlist. Today we created this playlist, researches into the lost history of America, because I do have a part one. So this is where you can find it. All right. And this is the video, part one, researches into the lost history of America. All right. 1 second while we get started. All right, guys, appreciate your patience. Had to get the door. Somebody was at the door. All right, so again, we're gonna go over and we're gonna continue where we left off in this book. Again, let me just go over to the cover of the book. The book is called Researches into the Lost Histories of America, or the zodiac shown to be an old terrestrial map in which the Atlantic isle is delineated so that light can be thrown upon the obscure histories of the earthworks and ruined cities of America, by W.S. Blackett. All right. And just go over a little bit of what we went over on part one. We found out that in the Hindu maps, ancient old Hindu maps of the world, we know that Suvarna Shumi, or the land of gold, was America. That's what they were referring to. All right. And I'm going just briefly, right? We know we had our own atlas, or the original atlas. the original atlas, older than the depictions of the so-called Greek atlas, right? Carrying the world. It's just a duplicate, you already know. And guys, we went over a lot of things, a lot of good information. Make sure to catch it from the beginning. If you haven't checked out part one, I'm gonna go ahead and just belly flop to part one, minute 54, just to go over a little bit at the end here, and because we're gonna pick up right where we left off. We didn't finish the whole chapter 4, so we're gonna read about half of chapter 4 and go into the next chapters. All right. So hold up 1 second. This quotation proves that the Egyptians knew America as the Atlantic Isle. All right, I've been telling you that. Plato says that the Atlantic Sea was navigable 9,000 years before his time, so that there must have been navigation across the Atlantic Ocean in the Mythic ages. The features of the passage are exceedingly clear. The island was larger than Libya and Asia put together. That may be put roughly at 8,000 miles across, all right? Bigger than North Africa and Asia. Asia is Europe and Asia, all right? It's bigger, so America is a continent. It was reached by travelers who first landed on islands before they arrived on the mainland. That is plain enough, right? The Caribbean and all that. They, like Columbus, reached the West India Islands first. The cause of the destruction mentioned was earthquakes. This points to the volcanic regions of Central America and the Andes, where such disasters have occurred in modern times with melancholy frequency. The invasion of Africa and Europe referred to constitutes a very large portion of the mythology of all nations, and in later chapters it will be worked out in detail, throwing light on all the obscurities of history. This is the comment. Now a little argumentation is necessary. And he says, learned men generally have adopted the theory that this Atlantic isle must be some island between the two hemispheres that has actually sunk, but the theory will not admit of the slightest examination. In the first place, it is absolutely contrary to the nature of things and therefore impossible. What is an island? An island has no independent existence. It is simply an outlying part of a continent, all right? Like the top of mountains, right? So it's really connected still. It's just sticking out, right? That's what an island is. It's just saying it's just part of a mountain that's sticking out. It's still part of another continent. So depressed at its size that water flows around it. England, for instance, is part of the continent of Europe with a shallow channel, right? So England is still connected to Europe. It's not an island, right? That's what he's letting you know. But England is just as much as a part of America as it is of France, okay? It's still connected to America too. It's just water in between, right? The waters of the Atlantic are, comparatively speaking, a small quantity of water lying in a depression of the vast crust of the earth. To talk, therefore, of an island sinking is to talk of an island sinking not into the water, but into the crust of the earth, that is to say, into itself, which is absurd. But in the second place, if an island could sink at all, this Atlantic isle could not possibly sink in the Atlantic Ocean. Learned men who believe in the sunken island could never have measured distances. They must have jumped to conclusions without a thought. Let the Atlantic Ocean be computed at 4,000 miles across. All right, pay attention to what he's going to say. Because remember, Plato described how big Atlantis was. So if it was that big, how could it sink in the Atlantic when the Atlantic is not even that big? So listen to what he says. It says, let the Atlantic Ocean be computed at 4,000 miles across. The quotation makes the island some 8,000. How, therefore, in the name of foot rules and yardsticks, could an island 8,000 miles wide exist at all and an ocean only 4,000 miles wide, to say nothing of sinking? The theory may be dispatched as a joke or as an illustration of the trick of putting a shilling into a sixpenny piece. Yet upon this extraordinary blunder, the histories of the human race are written. I've been trying to explain that to everybody. It's clearly described as bigger than Asia and Libya, all right? Bigger than the Atlantic Ocean itself. So how could it be in the Atlantic Ocean, all right? That was just parts of it went down, parts of it as the oceans rose. While the histories of America are veiled or supposed to have been lost, those of Africa, Europe, and Asia have been overloaded with what does not belong to them. I'm going to repeat that again. All right, Amaru Khans, listen up. While your history of America are veiled or supposed to have been lost. Those of Africa, all right, Pan-Africanism, Europe, and Asia have been overloaded with what does not belong to them. It does not belong to them. All right, so that was parts of part one. All right, that's where we ended it. So we're actually gonna pick up right on the same page, guys. In the next paragraph, that's where we're gonna pick up right now. So just a refresh, okay? Just in case anybody don't remember. All right, just 1 second, guys. All right, guys. Thanks for your patience. Getting the mood set, lighting up the incense, getting a little water to have there, on the side. You already heard it. While the histories of America are veiled, or supposed to have been lost, those of Africa, Europe, and Asia have been overloaded with what does not belong to them, all right? All that credit when they're saying out of Africa or the origin of man, cradle of civilization, or the farthest east, or Noah landed in the East Asia. Yeah, well, they're giving the credit to all continents doesn't belong to them, all right? The history is from the true old world, ancient America, okay? The next quotation is a fragment by Marcellus. It is published by Corey's Fragments. That such and so great an island formerly existed is recorded by some of the historians who have treated of the concerns of the outward sea. For they say that in their times there were 7 islands situated in that sea, which were sacred to Persephone, and 3 others of an immense magnitude, one of which was consecrated to Pluto, another to Ammon, and that which was situated between them to Poseidon. The size of this last was no less than 1,000 stadia. The inhabitants of this island preserved a tradition handed down from their ancestors concerning the existence of the Atlantic island, of a prodigious magnitude, which had really existed in those seas and which, during a long period of time, governed all the islands in the Atlantic Ocean. Such is the relation of Marcellus in his Ethiopian history. This fragment is of singular value in the present argument. The writer refers to historians generally, who had written on Western oceanic matters, so that in the geography of those times the Atlantic island was well recognized. No attempt will here be made to identify the island or islands with America. Of course, there is imperfection in the description of the island, but not more than has existed concerning many parts of the earth in modern times. The value of the present fragment consists in the light thrown upon the subject by the names mentioned. The names are not unknown to European literature, so that a clue is acquired for further research. But in fact, it will be found, as this work proceeds, that the names specified are exactly the same as will be found in the following pages. The next quotation, in proof that America was known to the ancients, is the well-known verse in Homer, where the poet says, "The utmost bounds of earth far off I see, where Tethys and Ocean boosts to be, the parents of the gods." All right, that's right here, the land of the parents of the gods. That the Macedonians had intercourse with South America is evident from a passage in the preface of Brasseur de Bourbourg's work. All right, great work by Brasseur de Bourbourg, French, historian, which we're definitely going to get into. Shout out to what's his name, Platoni. He's been reading them, translating some of them, and his histories, the Naciones Mexiques or Mexicas. At a village of Dolores near Montevideo in Brazil, a planter discovered a stone with Greek characters. Beneath the stone was a cave with two old swords, a cast, and a vase. There was on it the following inscription: Alexander, son of Philip, king of Macedonia, 63 older. All right, we're gonna definitely follow up on that one. All right. The next evidence is taken from Kemper's great work on Japan, Volume 2, page 13. The history of Perón, Maurigashima was an island in the Pacific Ocean near Formosa or Tyrora, famous for porcelain vessels. The inhabitants were rich and luxurious and had a contempt for religion. The king was named Peyron. Peyron. He himself was religious. He had a dream of a coming flood. It was to happen when the two faces of the idols in the temple turned red. These two idols were named Infoni, Wu, and Awum, gods of generation and destruction. They were naked with a loincloth. Someone, seemingly to play the king a trick, one night painted the faces of the idols. The king, hearing of it, lost no time in going on board a ship. Then the island sunk, and all was swallowed up. The king, hearing of it, lost no time in going on board a ship. Then the island sunk, and all was swallowed up. The king got safe to China. At the present time, particularly in the southern provinces, they row about in boats, as if to flee away, crying out, Perun. Over the spot, to this day, they dive for the porcelain vessels, which, when found, are disfigured by shells. They have short, narrow necks. This tradition is the Asiatic counterpart of that which the Egyptian priests narrated to the Greek. The Japanese have preserved a tradition of a sunken island in the Pacific Ocean, not unlike that of the European nations, concerning the Atlantic Isle. There must have been a deteriorated navigation in times comparatively modern on both sides of the old continent, but the Japanese have kept alive a remembrance of the island supposed to have sunk by a service of ceremonies to this day. It need not be said that no evidence of ancient events is so strong as festivals and ceremonies to preserve their remembrance. The next proof is in Homer's Odyssey and is supplied by the travels of Ulysses. The following quotation will comprise a succinct epitome of those celebrated movements. O Muse, sing to me of the man full of resources, who wondered very much after he had destroyed the sacred city of Troy, and saw the cities of many men and learned their manners. Many griefs also in his mind did he suffer on the sea, although seeking to preserve his own life and the return of his companions. But not even thus, although anxious, did he extricate his companions, for they perished by their own infatuation. Fools, who devoured the oxen of the sun, who journeys on high, but he deprived them of their return. O goddess, daughter of Jove, related to us also some of these things. Now all the others, as many as had escaped from the utter destruction, were at home, having escaped both the war and the sea. But him alone, anxious for a return home, and for his wife, the venerable nymph Calypso, a divine one of the goddesses, detained in her father's grot, desiring him to be her husband. In the 11th book, Ulysses relates his voyage. But when we were come down in the ship, and the sea, we first of all drew the ship into the divine sea, and we placed a mast and sails in the black ship, and taking the sheep we put them on board, and we ourselves also embarked grieving, shedding the warm tear, and fair-haired circle, an awful goddess. Guys, I'm sorry, 1 second, guys. and fair-haired Circe, an awful goddess, possessing human speech, sat behind our dark blue proud ship at moist wind that filled the sails, an excellent companion, and we sat down making use of each of the instruments of the ship, and the wind and the pilot directed it, and the sails of it passing over the sea were stretched out the whole day, and the sun set, and all the waves were overshadowed, and it reached the boundaries of the deep flowing ocean, where are the people and city of the Cimmerians, huh? Covered with shadow and vapor, nor does the shining sun behold them with his beams, all right? A dark place, where the Cimmerians were a very dark place. We've read that about them, right? In my Cimmerians video, coming out of this darkness. Then Tiresias speaks, he has the following remark. I know that going hence from the house of Pluto, thou wilt move thy well-route ship at the island of Aea. On reaching his destination, he says that the women came for the illustrious proper Proserpine, excited them, as many as were the wives and daughters of chiefs. Huh? Chiefs. Then he says, there then I saw Tyro first, born of a noble father, who said that she was the offspring of blameless Salmaneus. After her I beheld noble Antio, the daughter of Asopus. After her I beheld Alcmene, the wife of Amphitryon, who mingled in the arms of great Jove, brought forth bold lion-hearted Hercules, and I beheld the mother of Cerberus, and I saw the very beautiful Chloris from Neleus, once married on account of her beauty, when he had given her countless dowries, the youngest daughter of Amphion, son of Jasus, and she bore to him noble children, Nestor and Chromius, and proud Persiclymenus, and besides these she brought forth strong Pero, a marvel to mortals, whom all the neighboring inhabitants wooed, nor did Neleos at all offer to any one who could not drive away from Philas the crumbled horned oxen of mighty Iphicos. And I beheld Leda, the wife of Tyndareus, who brought forth two noble-minded sons, Castor and Pollux. After her I beheld Amphimedia, wife of Aloeus, who said that she had been united to Neptune and bare two sons, but they were short-lived, godlike Otis and far-famed Ephialtes, whom the fruitful earth nourished, the tallest and far the most beautiful, at least after illustrious Orion. For at 9 years old they were also 9 cubits in width, but in height they were 9 phantoms, who then threatened the immortals, that they would set up a strife of impetuous war in Olympus. They attempted to place Ossa upon Olympus, and upon Ossa leafy Pelion, that heaven might be accessible. And I beheld Paedra and fair Ariadne, the daughter of wise Minos. And I beheld Maera and Clymene and hateful Eriphil. This requires some comment. It is transcribed rather fully, because of its singular interest in itself. The author being Homer, it may be accepted as veracious. When read in the light of common sense and divested of imaginary divinity, it is simple. It is a simple story of a warrior who, after the Trojan War, went to sea. All right, listen to this. After the Trojan War, remember what happened? Who's the Trojans? Who's the people invading the Trojans? Seems like this was clans of Judah, tribes of Judah, Troy, and other tribes of Dan, Danites invading. So a warrior after a Trojan war that went to sea. But where did he go to? In the present volume, this question has to be answered by the localization of the dramatis persona. Ulysses first visits Circe. Circe has location in Italy. She was a daughter of a king of Colchis, who was expelled from the country and carried to the coast of Italy. Again, Colchis, Judah, all right, of the line of Judah. We've gone over this, all right, check out the previous videos. Ulysses remains with Circe for the space of a year, and then at the advice of Circe, he descends to what is called Aea. He then takes ships and sails with his companions to what is then designated the land of darkness. Where the land of darkness was may be seen from an examination of the old Hindu map, which has been introduced in the second chapter, on account of its geography of high antiquity. All right, we went over that in part one. It is America, Not only do the Hindus call America the land of darkness, but the classic writers do so likewise. The Odyssey opens with an account of the arrival of Ulysses in that land. He is found in company with the venerable nymph Calypso. But who is she? She is a nymph. That is to say, she is an inhabitant of the Atlantic isle. In the myth of Calypso, she is called an Oceanide, or one of the daughters of Atlas, already seen to have been located in Central America. Ulysses is determined in her hollow grot, and after revolving years, he returns to Ithaca. Okay? Ulysses then gives an account of the people he saw during his residence in his oceanic domicile. When the names are subjected to the process of localization, as far as ancient literature affects them, they are all found to be American. All this lingo, all these names they name it in Homer and all these stories, you can find them, and or they are found to be American. This work has not yet sufficiently advanced to identify the names, but Homer seems to have availed himself of the license of antiquity, as Josephus calls it, or of poetry, his own vocation, for the list comprises a very fair and comprehensive enumeration of the mythic or historical personages whom a critical inquiry must put in America. Had it not been for the strange hallucination which appears to have pervaded the minds of men in relation to the old traditionary stories of the bards and muses of history. The story of Ulysses will read as nothing more nor less than a good poetical account of a temporary residence of a Greek warrior in the land of America, so called Greek. Under these circumstances, the narrative is a strong evidence that the ancients were acquainted with America. The following passage from Ahmed de Tos, a Persian author in the 12th century, will show that the Chinese had communication with the American continent. The Narsic and Mensic are Gog and Magog. They are Turks. Another people are the Baris and Maris. They ravage the world. When the Sea of China is agitated, it casts the Gog and Magog one by one upon the banks. There they multiply in the forest, having a human figure, but feet of stags and skins of sheep, devouring all they see. They are of the race of Japhet, huh? Like Ashkenaz, like Khazars. They devour the world, they ravage the world. Another Chinese people, the Sant Jili, are of the race of Gog. They live on the borders of China. They have short feet and come from the bottom of the sea. They come up at night in boats. The following wild Irish story is fairly entitled to a place of this category. It is taken from the Transactions of the Oceanic Society, Volume 1, Battle of the Gabra. In a Fenian poem, St. Patrick asks Oisin how he outlived his Fenian friend 300 years. Oisin replied, they were cut off at the Battle of Gabra. He was afterwards hunting a lake Lini Killarney. A golden-haired lady appeared. She said she was Niam Sin Norse, daughter of Kaila, king of Tirnog, who came to marry Oisin, who was to take her to Tirnarog, and he should never die. Oisin took her over a boundless ocean to a great city of a giant who had previously carried away a daughter of the king to Tirambea, another paradise of the pagan Irish. So all these mythical lands is what they're pointing out. A lot of these mythical lands, even in Ireland, you know, that was America. Like Nuremberger, right? Nuremberg. Oisin killed the giant and having reached Tirnarog, married her. He remained there 300 years. After that, he revisited his friends, but the Ravs and Duns of the Phoenicians were all demolished, and they were all dead and gone. On reaching Stern, his foot touched the ground, and he became withered and old. The following extract from Herbalot's valuable dictionary of Oriental matters will show that the Oriental nations were acquainted with America under the name of Mount Kaf. Kaf, a mountain that Mohammedans ignorant of geography as the Alcoranists and people attached to fables. You guys hear that? Mount Kaf was real though. It was in America. But to the Mohammedans, they're saying it's become almost like a fable due to the false prophet, believed to go around all the globe of the earth and water, and to bound the hemisphere on all sides. On this supposition, they say that the sun of its rising appears upon the summit of this mountain, and that it sets behind the other, which is opposite to it, so that you often find in their ancient books, such as the Kaherman Name and others, to express the rising of the sun. This sort of speech, as soon as this star appears on the Mount Kaf, the world was lighted. So to understand the whole extent of the earth and water, they say, from Kaf to Kaf, that is to say, from one extremity to the other. At the same time, they make mention in their ancient books of a country which they call the Dry Island, which is a continent separated from ours, a word borrowed from the Yabasha of the Hebrews, which the Vulgate has interpreted arida, example, dry or arid, to signify the continent of the earth. Hey, much love and respect, Ambush Predator. Thank you, appreciate it very much. Shout out to everybody from Canada. They say that this island is situated beyond Mount Kaf, in which it appears that this ancient tradition of the Orientals is taken from the Isle Atlantic of Plato, which is no other thing than the continent of America. The same Orientals call it Agiash al-Mak Lokat, example, the marble of nature, and Jeni Dunia, which signifies in Turkish the New World, or the true Old World, is new to them. The Tariq Tabari in the Persian language reports in the first part of it, following the same fabulous traditions, that the Almighty God, after having created the earth, surrounded it by a girdle of mountains that the Arabs call Kaf. It is in this mountain that the Divs and the giants have been confined, after having been defeated and subjugated by the first heroes or the posterity of Adam, and where the petty and the fees make their ordinary abode. It is not difficult to see how America became lost to the ancients. All right, became lost to the ancients, isolated in its position, and with immense oceans on each side. It must necessarily have been dependent wholly on navigation. Remember where that started. Remember the ancient navigators of America. We went out from here to keep it known to the nations of the old continent. On the supposition of a lost navigation, America itself is lost, either with a navigation deteriorated or with ships of a smaller tonnage and sailors of less nautical courage. It would be cut off from the rest of the world. With timid navigators, it was easier to conclude that the land had sunk than to push forward till it was reached. And that was the end of chapter 4, right? So again, we were just continuing, reading chapter 4 where we left off in the first part. Okay, we're gonna get into chapter 5. Again, thanks for tuning in. You just tuned in. We're reading researches into the lost histories of America, or the zodiac, shown to be an old terrestrial map in which the Atlantic Isle is delineated, so that light can be thrown upon the obscure histories of the earthworks and ruined cities of America. All right, this is from 1884 by William Stevens Blackett. We're gonna get into some pretty interesting information as we go. It's a lot of chapters in this book, so that's why I wanted to go ahead and finish it up with you guys and read it together. All right, nothing but a thing here, nothing but a word, nothing but a word. Yeah. Chapter 5. In the Greek mythic traditionary histories, America appears as Oceanus, and it is peopled by gods, giants, nereids, furies, gorgons, faunis, and demons. Plato, puts the eruption of warlike races from the Atlantic isle at 9,000 years before his time. Then, where are the histories of that long period? Are they lost? No, they are comprised in the mythic stories of Greece, India, or Hindustan, right? You're saying that's older? No, that's a retelling. Who is the ancient Nagas? They came from America. All right, so the stories of so-called Greeks, the Hindus, and Scandinavians, huh? Huh? Scandinavians, Vikings, Danes, Saxons. Come on now. Who's older? Those stories are the only histories of the world, literally summed up and sung and recited by the bards and muses of the ancients. They have come down to modern times somewhat altered and overlaid by the mistaken conceptions of the learned men of old, and they have become painfully confused by additions made to them by learned men in modern times, who have taken no pains to arrange chronologically the incidents comprised in them. So we know, our chronology is also a little bit messed up, right? Still, they are histories, and they can, by study and research, be classified and reduced to order in a sufficient degree to contribute to the elucidation, expansion, and correction of history. All right, that's what we're trying to do, correct history. It is true that they have never been used in that way. They are in truth of no use without localization. But with the assistance of a map, that desirable end can be gained. Now that the Ptolemaic and Coptic zodiacs have been shown to be pictorial maps, named and in position, there is no reason at all why they should not be utilized in the present inquiry into the mysterious and concealed histories of ancient America. Under these circumstances, it is desirable to lay down a few rules for the use of these traditionary tales. The first rule is one of great importance. They should not be made use of at all, unless they are distinct and unless they have a good claim to confidence in regard to pedigrees and geography. Another rule is that the localization of a mythic personage should be decided not by reasoning, nor by the apparent suitability of the movement, but by the map. Every kind of evidence is admissible, and literature may be ransacked for knowledge, but the decision must be by map, even if it seem wrong. Again, the legends must be taken with all faults. One must make the best he can of them, as when a jury is required to give a united verdict upon complicated and dubious testimony. The jury may do the best they can. So, in the interpretation of myths, one must discover their meaning and localization by the exercise of sharp witted judgment. Again, when a mythic personage is not in either of the pictorial maps, his proper location may be found by combination. His relationship and symbolism may serve the same purpose. In the classic literature, America can be detected in the person of Oceanus, the father of Oceanides, an important race of people who are discoverable in all parts of the old continent. Diodorus Siculus even puts them in India. What India? Remember, there was three Indias. Remember, India Superior is North America. There is some difference between the Greek and the Latin cosmogonies in relation to Oceanus. The Greek list makes him to be one of the Titans. The Latin list makes him to be a brother of Saturn, Hyperion, and Titan. This difference is quite immaterial when it is seen that the characters mentioned are not individual men, but that they embody what may be called ancient ethnology and geography. All right? It is certainly very curious to find the great gods of antiquity to be impersonations of countries and stamp fathers of races, okay? This is deep right here. This can also be applied to some of the personages in the Bible. Impersonations of countries or stem fathers of races of a tribe. But it cannot be helped. It is a part of the system of concealment by which the muses of history have handed down their knowledge. Oceanus is not in the maps, so that he must be localized by combination. Homer makes the localization of Oceanus quite plain when he puts Tethys in ocean far off. All right, Oceanus was way far, right? He's on the other side of the world, across the ocean, at the bounds of the earth. The Hindu map and the Oriental description of Mount Kaf showed what the ancients mean by the bounds of the earth. It is the land which surrounds the great ocean, which flows around the old continent, the original continent, the old, what is the oldest land on earth? Where's it coming from? We already got the drop, right? It's in America, the primordial waters that came out of the primordial waters, right? Far off at the bounds of the earth must mean the extremity of Western Europe. But what claim has Gaul or Britain to be the parent of 3,000 rivers? It may be said that it is the ocean that is the parent of the rivers. But in that case, how can an Oceanos have a wife and 3,000 names for children? No, Oceanos is an impersonation of America. All right, that's what he's saying. Like, no, it's actually impersonation of America. That's who Oceanus is. But let his myth be read. Oceanus was a powerful deity of the sea, son of Caelus and Terra, all right, of the mother, Terra and Caelus. He married Tethys, by whom he had the most principal rivers, such as the Alpheus, Peneus, Strymon, etc., with a number of daughters who are called from him Oceanides. According to Homer, Oceanus was the father of all the gods. The father of all the gods, all right? And if it's America, what are they telling you? The fatherland or motherland, fatherland of all the gods. And on that account, he received frequent visits from the rest of the deities. He is generally represented as an old man with a long beard and sitting upon the waves of the sea. Okay? He often holds a pike in his hand, while ships under sail appear at a distance, or a sea monster stands near him. Oceanus presided over every part of the sea, and even the rivers were subjected to his power. Add to this the myth of his wife, Tethys, the greatest of the sea deities, was wife of Oceanus and daughter of Uranus and Terra. She was mother of the chiefest rivers of the universe, such as the Nile. The Nile means great river. You mean the Mississippi? The Alpheus, the Moender, Simois, the Peneus, the Evenus, the Scamander, etc. And about 3,000 daughters called Oceanides. Tethys is confounded by some mythologists with her granddaughter Tethys, the wife of Peleus and the mother of Achilles. A few comments on these myths are needed. One sees here how the Greeks have forgotten the nature of their own myths, so called Greeks, and to what silly mistakes their misconceptions have led them. Oceanus and Tethys are the parents of the greatest rivers in the universe. Yet Alpheus and Peneus, their own little streams, are made to represent them. Again, when Homer makes Oceanus the father of all the gods, that expression must be limited to the oceanic hemisphere. A careful collation and classification of myths reveal the fact that the great ancient deities of antiquity belonged to the vast empires of Asia, not to America. The oceanic gods are but reproductions of the Colossi. This allocation of Oceanus as the America of the Old World is one of the grandest conceptions discoverable in the highly poetical and figurative writings of the Muses. The ocean of the terrestrial globe is the vast extent of water which stretches from Great Britain to Japan. It occupies a very large part of the world. Oceanus, as the great sea deity, reclines on his watery couch, right in its very center. He is the father of the greatest rivers of the earth, such as the Mississippi, the Ohio. Listen to this, guys. So basically, what they're telling you, like they always knew when they made the Great Ocean, they meant from Western Europe to Eastern Asia, because remember they supposedly didn't know America was there or anything like. But they put all Atlantis and they put Oceanus in the middle of all that. There was no Atlantic or Pacific Ocean. They call it the Great Ocean. America was in between the Great Ocean. That's why we have Atlantic Pacific. It actually splits oceans, right? We're so big it splits oceans. If you look at old maps, you'll see like barely a river, a channel, or the Strait of Magellan that separate in South America and Antarctica. There is a separation here. There is a big land here. This is Oceanus. And it's telling you, right? He is the father of the greatest rivers of the earth. They had their Greek names for it. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Is it called Nile? Or is it called the Mississippi? He is the father, such as the Mississippi, the Ohio, the Missouri, the Amazon, and the Orinoco. You're saying these ain't great rivers? He is the father of 3,000 nymphs who, in their own spacious prairies and woods, have given rise to races which have peopled their own great land, and by migrations into other parts of the habitable globe, have become the mothers of mighty nations. But he is not a solitary God. Sitting in his own domain, Lord of the mighty ocean, he receives frequent visits from the rest of the deities. Then, to crown the magnificent description of the watery king, he is the father of all the gods, source of divinities to Europe, Asia, and Africa. All right? Again, I'm going to read that again. Got to break out of that Pan African, Afrocentric, out of Mesopotamia, all that. Sumerian, all Hindu. Nope. Oceanus is America, and he is the father of all the gods, source of divinities to Europe, Asia, and Africa. And we've gone over this a lot. Coming out of so-called Atlantis, the Atlantean, so-called Atlantean gods did become the old world gods. Atlantis is America. Such is the poetical imagery and bardic conception of ancient America. Okay? All right, let's get a little water here going. Uranus and Gaia, right? Gaia or Terra or Mother Earth, Uranus, Hawa, Oceanos and Tethys, Inachus, Proteus, Clymene, Clytia, Caliro, Nereus, and Doris. All right, these are their so-called Greek names. What are these though? What do they represent? To this must be added the names of some of the 3,000 Oceanides or sea nymphs mentioned in the tradition. Apollodorus gives the following: Asia, Styx, Electra, Donis, Eurynomi, Amphitrite, and Metis. Hesiod, 944 years before Christ, mentions 41. Pito, Ameti, Primno, Ianti, Rhodia, Hippo, Calirho, Urania, Clymene, Idia, Pasito, Clytia, Soko, Galuxaure, Plexaure, Perseus, Pluto, Do, Polydora, Melobosis, Dione, Circes, Shanti, Acasta, Geneva, Telesto, Europa, Menesto, Europa, Yoruba, Europa, Yoruba, Menesto, Petria, Eudora, Calypso, Tiche, Okiro, Crisia, Amphiro, and those mentioned by Apollodorus except Amphitrite. All right, they're Greek, they're words, huh? Coming out of the Paleo Hebrew. Oceanus in this pedigree has a wife who must also have been his sister. This character comes under the first rule just given for the allocation of mythic characters. There is a great temptation to consider her as a representative of South America, but it is better to avoid dubious identifications. He's like, he's like, I think they mean South America, but we'll go on to that another time. The children of this marriage are very numerous. The names of all of them might be given, but in all probability the reader would be inclined to take them as read. Yet really one looks at them with a thoughtful, if not a philosophical mind. If the present theory be correct, the long list of mysterious names must represent the geography and ethnology of prehistoric America. That's what Homer's retelling, literally in poetry. And code, maybe, on purpose, maybe. Remember, they kept the America secret, the Carthaginians so called. Cartagena, Cartago, oh, we got those here too. Cartagena, Cartago, come on now. One despairs of any attempt to fix the location of all these Oceanides. A great many of them are utterly beyond the reach of research. Yet some of them arrest attention and create some astonishment. Here is Styx, Electra, the wife of Atlas; Eurynomy, god of the underworld; Pluto, the husband of Serpentine and Europa, who gives names to Europe. All right, Europa, that's the name of Europe. Europa. One thing is certain, that the names call for study. The names do call for study. Don't get in your feelings. One of the sons of Oceanos and Tethys here enumerated is Inachus. His legend is of as follows. Inachus, a son of Oceanos and Tethys, who founded the kingdom of Argos about 1980 years before the Christian era. He was succeeded by his son Phoronios and gave his name to a river of Argos, of which he became the tutelar deity. He reigned 60 years. This requires the legend of Phoronios, the god of a river of Peloponnesus of the same name. He was son of the river Inachus by Melissa, and he was the second king of Argos. He married a name called Cerdo, or Laodice, by whom he had Apis, from whom Argolis was called Appia, and Niobe, the first woman of whom Jupiter became enamored. Phoronios taught his subjects the utility of laws and advantages of a social life and of friendly intercourse. When the inhabitants of Argolis are often called Phoronai, he received divine honors after death. It is certainly very remarkable to find these two characters in America. Their myths have to be scanned with a little thought. At first sight, it looks as if they explode the present mode of tracing history. But upon second thoughts, that criticism disappears. These two personages, when looked at carefully, change into rivers and gods. It is true that they give names to races in Greece, the Inaki and the Foronai, but that fact is suggestive of the idea that they must have been strangers who, on arrival and settlement on a certain river, become river gods. If so, that is not a bad illustration of the myth of Oceanus, when it is said that he was the father of all the gods. The myths are clearly suggestive of a very high antiquity, and taken as they stand, they lead to the conclusion that there must have been a very early intercourse between America and the Mediterranean nations. Another son of Oceanus is Proteus. He is a slippery sort of personage that changes a little too often for accurate localization. He is not beyond research, but he is better studied in connection with Cetus, the whale, a figure that belongs to Africa and Egypt. Huh, really? The whale? He swims across the Atlantic. Let him pass. Clymene comes next, a daughter of Oceanus and Tethys, who married Japetus, by whom she had Atlas, Prometheus, Menoetius, and Epimetheus. This is a short legend, but of the highest possible importance to the present inquiry. She heads the Titan race, and in future pages of this work, her husband and her children will be found to embody, listen, some of the most important histories of Mexico and Central America. Plithia is uncertain, all right? So that's why I kind of want to read this so we can get to the juicy, juicy parts. And again, we've gone over this with the writings of Lord Kingsborough and many others, comparing, right, the old world deities and finding them in the codices and in the old writings and legends and myths of the Americas and the temples and the walls, exactly the same stories, much, much older, real archaeology. Nereus and Doris come next. They separate separately are children of Oceanus. Nereus was generally represented as an old man with a long flowing beard and hair of an azure color. The chief place of his residence was in the Aegean Sea, where he was surrounded by his daughters, who often danced in choruses round him. He had the gift of prophecy, and informed those that consulted him with the different fates that attended them, etc. Nereus and Doris are the parents of the Nereids, the mermaids of antiquity, of whom 50 are mentioned. It is not necessary to transcribe the names. As the names of the Nereids are to a great extent the same as those of the Oceanides, it must be inferred that there is little difference between Nereus and Oceanus as impersonations of the Oceanic hemisphere. If there is any difference, that of the father seems to be descriptive of geography, and that of Neru's of personality. According to the fine verse of Hesiod, the sea with earth embracing, Nereus rose, eldest of all his race, pure from deceit, and true with filial veneration named, ancient of years, for mild and blameless he, remembering still the right, still merciful as just in counsels. In a future chapter of this work, the Nereids will be met with again as wives of the dragon or serpent, alright, the Amaru. It is that circumstance which brings out to view the real character and position of the Nereus, the wives of the Khans, Drakans, in relation to the present inquiry. The serpent gives portraiture to Mexico, the plum serpent, so that Nereus must be located on the west coast of North America, in the lands where are found the great temples and pyramids that indicate the former residence of a race devoted to religion or what stands for it in the minds of semi civilized people, what we think is religion. Another member of this extraordinary family is Calirho. Her legend is short but significant. Calirho, daughter of Oceanus and Thetis, mother of Echidna, or Orthos and Severus by Chrysaor, this calls for the myth of Echidna, a celebrated monster sprung from the union of Chrysaor and Calirho, the daughter of Oceanus. She is represented as a beautiful woman in the upper parts of the body, but as a serpent below the waist. She was mother of Typhoon, Orthus, Cerberus, the Hydra, and according to Herodotus, Hercules, had three children by her, Agarthyrsus, Gelonus, and Scita. It is most likely that the reader, who has had patience enough to read through the description now given of this family, has been smiling at the simplicity of a writer who could suppose that these personages have anything to do with the great secret histories of prehistoric America. They look like the natural biography of certain individuals who lived in the archipelago surrounding the shores of Greece. But the moment the myth of Echidna or Chitna is introduced, the spell is broken and the truth starts up. So completely have the hierophantic writers of the Old World succeeded in casting the veil of concealment over the histories and ethnology of the vast past that it takes an extraordinary amount of penetration and self reliance to detect the real facts which underlie such writings. There is a beautiful description of Echidna in Hesiod. Another monster, Seto, bore Anon, Anion, in the deep hollowed cavern of a rock. Stupendous, nor in shape resembling aught of human nor of heavenly, the divine Echidna, the untamable of soul, above a nymph, with beauty blooming cheeks and eyes of jetty luster, but below a speckled serpent, horrible and huge, bloody, devouring, monstrous, hid in caves of sacred earth. There in the uttermost depth her cavern is, within a vaulted rock, alike from mortals and immortals deep remote. The gods have there her place assigned, in mansions known to fame. The wonderful monster, thus so graphically described, appears to be the creation of the Greek poets and mythologists as a sort of a general embodiment of the motherhood of the half caste races of prehistoric, or it may be said antediluvian America. That's what it is. For such it for such it really is. Okay, it really is. Not that they had any clear idea of what they described, and the mysterious histories comprising the person of Echidna. The true facts must have been lost in the lapse of ages, and the misconceptions inevitable by a system of allegorical traditions. Allegory, right? Just like the depiction of America. Allegorical, right? It's supposed to be allegorical, but it's a black woman in the British Museum. Echidna is the sea monster of antiquity. It is this sea monster on which Oceanus himself reposes. In the picture of the god, which is given in the commencement of the next chapter, it will be seen that the sea monster is present in the scene. The existence of this sea monster seems to have pervaded the minds of men as a sort of frightful apparition, afar off upon the uncertain ocean, even down to the present day. The sea serpent is an object of wonder to the seafaring world, and many a tale of the sea has been woven out of its supposed appearance to the astonished sailors. It is one of those traditions which, arising out of the uncertain histories of a past world, cannot be forgotten. Echidna, in the present myth, has the widest possible motherhood. She is the mother of Typhoon. It will be found as the work proceeds that Typhoon in the Coptic zodiac is a general character used to delineate the whole of America, north and south. The Cerberus will be met with its proper place at the eastern and southern entrance to North America. The Hydra is one of the numerous names which are employed to characterize the serpent of the uh, Ptolemaic zodiac, overhanging the land of Mexico. The marriage of Hercules with Echidna, to which reference will be made in the chapter on the mound cities of North America, on the mounds, puts Echidna in that region. Thus, Echidna stands for a generic motherhood of races, which for untold ages must have occupied the fair lands of the Oceanic hemisphere. All right, 1 second, guys. Gotta just remove somebody from the chat who's spamming. All right, I know the moderator is paying attention. They're like, moderator, okay, yeah. Je suis Cristo. Okay, je suis Leon, man. Je suis Leon. Oui. Parle français, you know. Let's go. Sorry about that, guys. From the writings of classic authors, it appears that the ideas entertained of the people beyond the Pillars of Hercules and in the transmarine regions of the Atlantic Isle were most extraordinary. Their imagination seems to have dressed them in all sorts of outlandish and supernatural forms. It may be well to enumerate them before entering upon the specific histories which will bring them out to view in the several locations assigned to them. Yeah, so if you're new to my channel, guys, yeah, I have a Patreon. I have all the information on my description of my videos. I also have the join, the membership on the channel here on YouTube if you like to support that way as well. But yeah, try to catch up on the videos. Try to read the descriptions of the videos as well. You might get some links there. Thank you. First, there are the gods. This has already been brought out by the legend of Oceanus, who is the father of all the gods. Judging of the word god by the light of Asiatic mythology, the race or races that have the name ought to have been Japanese, for Japan is the land of gods and celestial spirits. In all probability, the term has been used for the people of Asia generally, who have mingled their blood and fortune with the aborigines of the land. In the course of the present work, it will be brought out to view that these gods have, in the course of their residence in the mound cities of the red men, so-called red men, copper-colored races of America, copper-colored, given rise to a new order of gods, which has linked itself on the European life. In the imagination of the ancients, America must also have been peopled by giants. Oh, we already know that, right? Been able to prove that. This is not only the case in the classics, but it seems to have been the notion entertained by the Scandinavians. The gigantes or gigantes, we say that in Spanish, gigantes or giant, were the sons of Caelus and Terra. According to Hesiod, they sprang from the blood of the wound which Caelus received from his son Saturn. Hyginus calls them sons of Tartarus and Terra. Tartarus. They are represented as men of uncommon stature, with strength proportioned to their gigantic size. Some of them, as Cotus Braerus and Giges, had each 50 heads and 100 arms, and serpents instead of legs. They were a terrible aspect. Their hair hung loose about their shoulders, and their beard was suffered to grow unmolested. But Oceanus and his race are the mythologists. treated as giants by the mythologists, right? Treated as giants. Titanes, a name given to the sons of Caelus and Terra. They were 45 in number. According to the Egyptians, Apollodorus mentions 13, Hyginus 6, and Hesiod 20. The most known of the Titans are Saturn, Hyperion, Oceanus, Japetus, etc. They were all of a gigantic stature and with proportionable strength. Among these extraordinary characters, Typhus and Typhoon is reckoned. He was a famous giant, son of Tartarus and Terra, who had 100 heads like those of a serpent or a dragon. Flames of devouring fire were darted from his mouth and from his eyes, and he uttered horrid yells like the different shrieks of different animals. He was no sooner born than to avenge the death of his brothers, the giants. He made war against heaven, and so frightened were the gods that they fled away and assumed different shapes. Another strange and wonderful notion, which the ancients appear to have entertained concerning the inhabitants of prehistoric America, is contained in the story of Gorgons. It is worth transcription. The Gorgons were three celebrated sisters, daughters of Horses and Seto. Their names are Steno, Uriel, and Medusa. All right, again, come on, this is talking about what? The prehistoric inhabitants of America. Listen up. According to the mythologists, their hairs were intertwined with serpents. Their hands were brass. Their body was covered with impenetrable scales, and their teeth were as long as the tusk of a wild boar, and they turned to stone all those whom they fixed their eyes. Medusa alone had serpents in her hair, according to Ovid, and this proceeded from the resentment of Minerva, and whose temple Medusa had gratified with the passions of Neptune, who was enamored of her, on account of the beauty of her locks, which the goddess changed into serpents. The residence of the Gorgons was beyond the ocean in the west. They are also Westerners, just like the Egyptian gods. The last sentence in this tradition proves that the Gorgons were Americans. They must have been so if they resided beyond the ocean in the west. They are children of Phorcys and Ceto and grandchildren of Pontus, who coalesces with Oceanus. Remember, Oceanus is America, so yeah. And the genealogy, it makes sense too. The Medusa is easily located by her serpentine attributes. She must be put in the serpent land, that is to say, Mexico, Mexico, land of the plum serpent, the dragons, Amaru, and the surrounding region. Urali is a daughter of Minos, who in later chapters will be found in the Peru. All right, it's all gonna be bring you back back home, guys. We're gonna get to the juicy chapters later on, correlating already with all the other books we've been reading, right? Different people from different time periods, from different countries with different backgrounds, all letting you know before the 1900s, America was the true old world, and they didn't let us know, guys. They lied to us in school. Again, Uriel is a daughter of Minos, who in later chapters will be found in Peru, so that she must stand for a settlement on the west shores of South America. Steno will be located ultimately as representative of the earthworks scattered over the woods and prairies of North America. Steno is is part of the mound building culture here. It may be objected that while Hesiod places the Gorgons beyond the ocean in the west, Oeschylus puts them in eastern Scythia, and Ovid in the eastern parts of Libya. But that is not inconsistent with the present localization. We are the farthest east. The Gorgons are the forefathers of the savage races known as Gog and Magog in the Old Continent in the historic period of the world. Remember that Noah, where did Noah come out? Where was the true old world? The antediluvians. So yeah, many nations coming out of ancient America. They were found where these writers placed them, both in eastern Scythia and in western Africa. It will be remembered that a Persian author has recorded that Gog and Magog came across the Sea of China, so that they came into eastern Scythia On the other hand, the African branch of the Gorgon race is a part of that invasion from the Atlantic Isle, spoken of by the Egyptian priests, into Africa, not the other way around. In ancient times, remember the Mandan people tell of their migration, their eastern migration with corn, with maize, into their present land in West Africa. All right? Another class of wondrous creatures whom the classic authors have put in the oceanic hemisphere is that of the Nereids, referred to in an earlier part of the present chapter as the children of Nereus and Doris. They have been located in Mexico, or thereabouts, but it is not to be supposed that all the 50 mermaids harbored in that spot. One of them will be found in the lake of Titicaca when the story reaches that part of America. All right, we'll get to that. These curious ladies have served in all ages for nursery tales and fancy stories. All right, guys, because it doesn't matter how long it takes us. We're gonna get to all these books and all these chapters eventually. Make sure to subscribe, hit like and share. If you haven't subscribed, you think, I don't know about this channel. It's kind of boring. He's only reading. Well, hey, it's your loss. We're getting informed here. We're reading and we're enjoying it, and it's correlating with everything we've been learning all these years. These curious ladies have served in all ages for nursery tales and fancy stories. Perhaps the sea monster himself has not excited more astonishment in the minds of the youthful members of society. They must be put among the wonderful inhabitants of the lost and sunken island. Then there are the harpies, the Stygian birds of school books. They also are among the inhabitants of antediluvian America. In some mythological lexicons, the harpies are the children of Atlas. In India, Atri, who coalesces with Atlas, is their father. All right? Atlas is Atlas, ATL. Come on now, Nahual. Between waters, between rivers, between bodies of water. They will be met with again in a later chapter. Perhaps there are no characters among the wondrous creations mentioned in all books and delineated in the monuments of the Dark Ages that have played a role so important in the histories of the world as the men birds, right? The men birds. Come on now, who dress like men, like birds, and jaguars? We found the men birds in the mounds, right? Yeah, the depictions of the birdman, right? They put men bird, birdmans. Some of them have been already presented to the notice of the reader in the front piece of this volume, and they will reappear. These harpies are especially American, inasmuch as in the splendid pictures found in Aglio, the Birdman occupies a special place. All right, the Birdman. We ain't talking about the rapper. Let's see if we can make it pop up, guys. See if we can make it pop up. Oh, yes, we did. The Birdman. That's one of them right here. He got his beak on. There's actually a lot of depictions found in the mounds of the Birdman. We've shown a lot of good ones before. They're not showing us. They're not showing us good ones, but this is definitely. Is it Birdman Tablet Monk's Mount? All right, Illinois, Cahokia. Researches. What's this? Researchers reveal how prehistoric Native Americans of Cahokia made copper artifacts. This is the Birdman with the Birdman copper metallurgy. Oh yeah. These harpies are especially American. Again, all right. So the Birdman, he not only is found in many separate instances in highly graphic form, but he serves for decoration to all the palaces of the Mexican kings. All right, you see the correlation with Mexico and the mound builders? The next race which can be detected as belonging to the America in the Mythic period is that of the Faunis. All right, of the Faunis. Before we go to the Faunis, so simple eagle warrior. Let's put Maya, right? Whatever. Let's see what we get. All right, the Birdman. That's the hijacking. The one version images. The one version images. The Birdman. Yeah. Yeah, right. Jaguar warriors and bird eagle warriors or birdmen, right? So watch this, birdman, Mesopotamia, and he's carrying. You guys already know corn. He's carrying corn. All right, he's carrying corn with a little seed bag and the corn. This little one is from from Peru, from Ecuador. They found this one in the Crespi collection. The Birdman. All right, carrying the corn, carrying the corn. I check out my old corn videos. That's corn. That's not no acorn. That's corn. The Birdman. Yeah, coming from America. The Birdman, right? The Birdman coming from America. There you go. So swarty. The Birdman. So swarty coming from America, right? Okay. So also the Fawnies can also be found in America. He's saying the Fawnies locate themselves by their name as Pawnees. Hmm. Fawnies, Pawnees. Look at that. Isn't there a tribe called the Pawnees? This well-known tribe of red men seems to have retained its name to the present day, or at least till the discovery of America, when it was spread over the region west of the Mississippi. The following is the legend of the Fawnies, or Fani, certain deities of the country represented as having the legs, feet, and ears of goats, and the rest of the body human. They were called satyrs by the Greeks. The peasants offered them a lamb or kid with great solemnity. The satyrs were demigods of the country whose origin was unknown. This makes it necessary to introduce Pan. In this tradition, he is called the god of shepherds and huntsmen. Pan was a monster in appearance. He had two small horns on his head. His complexion was ruddy. Ruddy. You're gonna make me do it again, huh? Check this out, guy. Ruddy cow. Ruddy. Ruddy cow. Okay? Ruddy. So called brownish red, right? Ruddy. Ruddy. He had a ruddy complexion. He had a ruddy complexion. Ruddy, you that doesn't mean pink or pale skin. Come on, man. Ruddy complexion. All right. People say, "Hey, why you ruddy watching Kurimeo? Why you ruddy watching Kurimeo? Yo, stop ruddy watching Kurimeo. Ruddy watching." You guys see that? I know I have to do these things sometimes, but people like just started arguing me in the comments if I don't show what ruddy looks like. Really, right? Ruddy. Let's go back. So Pan, right? The deity Pan. Come on now, Pan. His complexion was ruddy. His nose was flat, and his legs, thighs, tail, and feet were those of a goat. Oh man, Pan, according to some, is the same as Faunus, and he is the chief of all the satyrs. As Pan is a very important god and will be met with again more than once in the following pages, it is necessary to study the character a little. The Orphic cosmogony confounds him with the universe, and the fire that animates it. Hours and seasons are placed around his throne. He is master of the world and spreads the light. He holds seven circles in his right hand, and he has wings on his shoulders. He is the first that comes out of the egg of the world. Much of the best idea of this subject is derived from a description of the Lupercalia, which was a yearly festival observed at Rome on the 15th February in honor of Pan. It was usual, first, to sacrifice two goats and a dog, and to touch with a bloody knife the forehead of the two illustrious youths, who always were obliged to smile while they were touched. The blood was wiped away with soft wool dipped in milk. After this, the skins of the victims were put into thongs with which whips were made for the youths. With these whips, the youths ran about the streets all naked except the middle, and whipped freely all those they met. Women in particular were fond of receiving the lashes as they superstitiously believed that they removed barrenness and eased the pains of childbirth. This excursion in the streets of Rome. You guys hear what's going on with the Romans, Idumis? Uh, yeah, and the streets of Rome were wild, and the streets of Rome were wild was performed by naked Jews because Pan is always represented naked, and a goat was sacrificed because that deity was supposed to have feet of goats. In view of these myths and practices, there cannot be the least doubt that Pan and the Faunis are representatives of the Red Indians of North America. Pan is a savage, a naked savage with a loincloth. A bloody knife must bring blood to the use, and while suffering the gash, they must smile. Pan is a ruddy or red, and he is god of the woods and the chase. Red, copper colored, he is of North American Indian to the letter. It reads like a description in Copper's novels of guides captured and tied to a tree and cut with a tomahawk, or one sees a Pawnee Indian caught or tortured, or a young man initiated into the religious observances of the tribe, as described by Mr. Catlin. While suffering the most excruciating agony, he must not move a muscle or flinch the least. Then whips are used and flagellations all around. The identity is complete. So basically, what he's saying is that the Pawnees even practice sort of religious practice like that. Perhaps the most remarkable mythic description of the North American Indians, which is given in the mythological lexicon, is that of the Furies, or Furies, the very name of which is graphically expressive of the people whom the first settlers in America in modern times found to be the inhabitants of the great forest. The tradition which gives a full account of the Furies is as follows. Eumenides, a name given to the Furies, Eric, that's the point. This is Gentile stuff. That's they grab stories, traditions, they turn it into pagans, so they turn it into their deities and mythologically. I'm sorry, mythology, but it's based on real history, real people, real place. That's what we're pointing out. Humanity's a name given to the Furies by the ancients. They sprang from the blood of the wound which Coelus received from his son Saturn. According to others, they were the daughters of the earth, and conceived from the blood of Saturn. Some make them daughters of Acheron and Night, or Pluto and Proserpine. According to the more received opinions, they were three in number: Persephone, Megara, and Alecto, to whom some add Nemesis. Plutarch mentions only one, Adrasta, daughter of Jupiter and Necessity. They were supposed to be the ministers of the vengeance of the gods. They were stern and inexorable, and were always employed in punishing the guilty upon earth, as well as in the infernal regions. They inflicted their vengeance upon earth by wars, pestilences, and dissensions, and by the secret stings of conscience. And in hell they punished the guilty by continual flagellations and torments. They were also called Furies and Erinyes. Their worship was almost universal, and people dared not mention their names or fix their eyes upon their temples. They were honored by sacrifices and libations. And in Achaia, they had a temple which, when entered by any one guilty of crime, suddenly rendered him furious and deprived him of the use of his reason. In the sacrifices, the votaries used branches of cedar and of alder, all right, cedar, hawthorn, saffron, and juniper, and the victims generally were turtle doves, and sheep, and libations of wine and honey. They were generally represented with a grim and frightful aspect, with a black and bloody garment, and serpents wreathen round their head instead of hair. They held a burning torch in one hand and a whip of scorpions in the other, and were always attended by terror, paleness, and death. In hell they were seated round Pluto's throne as the ministers of his vengeance. If this is not a description of the Red Indians of North America, it ought to be. Of whom else can it be a picture? So remember, guys, I know a lot of people get in their feelings when they're saying, "Oh, come on, we're not pagan. They're talking about Indians." Everybody in America wasn't the same, guys. There's many nations here. This was the true old world. Everybody's not the same. There was people doing their own things, right? Things that we shouldn't be doing. That's why we fell off. You know, you ain't keeping the code. You ain't keeping the code. Remember. All right, doesn't mean all the tribes were doing all the same things or all the same practices or ceremonies, but specific tribes were, and that's what he's pointing out. All right. A crowd of reflections sprang up in the mind on the perusal of this tradition. They sprang from the wound that Coelus received from Saturn. They were daughters of Jupiter. But these are the great gods of Europe. What conceivable histories could be connected with North America, supposed to have been unknown to the ancients, that the European gods could spring from North American Indians? All right, listen, this is deep right there. Been telling you, the real people, all these deities represent something. All these European gods, huh? They could actually spring from North American Indians. This is a clue for inquiry, and the reader must be prepared to find that there was not only intercourse between the two hemispheres in ancient times, but there was also consanguinity between the red and white races, so-called red, so-called white, crayon colors. That's the hijack. Then they surrounded the throne of Pluto and were ministers of his vengeance. What has Pluto to do with North America and the red men of the woods? Can it be possible that Pluto is to be found in America? If so, here is a further fact by which to open up the concealed histories of this great terra incognita, this hidden land, terra incognita America, for there are remarkable traditions concerning Pluto, which must have relation to America. But what is to be thought of the extraordinary statement that the Furies had a temple in Achaia? Did the Red Indians have a temple in Achaia? Their worship was almost universal. Then they must have crossed the Atlantic Ocean in vast numbers, and they must have entered into the religious systems of all nations, Greece not excepted. So-called Greek, so-called Rome's. What you talking about? If this is to be relied upon, all history must be topsy-turvy, and the gods and stemfathers of European races must be sought for in the forests of North America. Body bag for the illusion. Shout out to Drop Nation. America appears also, according to the conceptions of the ancients, to have been the land of demons. Huh? The land of demons. Everything. It's the underworld, right? That's where the sun sets, right? We talking about demons or dracons? It will be shown in after pages that the poetical astronomers and the pictorial mapmakers have treated the west coast of South America as especially demoniacal. The mention of Pluto in the myth of the Eumenides supplies the same idea. It is, however, chiefly in demonology that this dark subject receives its full development. The demons of the Sabbat and the pictures which portray them must be taken to belong to this category. America, again, remember, is the true old world. Most of all your influence in world civilization is coming out of here. Take it all together. It must be admitted that ancient literature has drawn a very pretty picture of the inhabitants of the oceanic hemisphere. Just take a look at them again in their assembled attitude. They suit very well the transformation scene. Gods. Well, a specimen of them is given in the next chapter in the person of Oceanus himself, a fine, noble looking character, again, whose physical well being, no exception can be taken. Then there are the giants, giants of the Spitfire denomination with serpents for legs, and giants of overgrown dimensions and rapid growth. A specimen of that kind of gentry is seen in the person of Typhoon or Typhon in the Coptic zodiac. Then there are the Gorgons, lovely ladies with one eye among three and one without a head. Specimens of them are seen further on. Take the mermaids next, half women, half fish, just by way of diversity. Echidna herself may be mentioned. Some of this class of characters can be found in a future chapter. The harpies must not escape observation. Specimens of them appear in the front piece and elsewhere. Then come the faunis with Pan at their head. Faunis, Pawnies, he will make his appearance in propria persona when Central America is reached. The Furies cannot well be hidden. They have played too large a part in human history. One will show himself shortly on the egg of the world. Fill up the picture with the demons. Hmm. Even that stuff, huh? Yet it must not be supposed for a moment that this wonderful collection of people and races of men should ever have been seen in the fair plains and spacious forests of beautiful America. It is all a matter of dress and heraldry. It is the intense love of nature which has given rise to these fanciful forms of humanity. It is personal attire which has applied the muses of antiquity with their notions of transmarine people. There is a wonderful difference between the customs of the ancients and the moderns in dress. At the present day, the acme of perfection in costume is made to consist in plainness. It was not so in olden times, all right? Everybody had their own style, everybody was very unique. Fashion was really big. Fashions vary. Fashions of prehistoric America, all right? Fashion, origin, yeah, that was here. What the fashions were in America can be seen in the great collection of pictures, which was published under the name of Uglio, and which must be consulted to a large extent as illustrations of the present work. Those pictures supply quite a picture gallery of prehistoric American costume. As they exhibit the antiquities of the country, they must be taken as showing the habits of customs and of American life before the flood. Two or three specimens are given to exhibit the fashions of the period. There can be no wonder that the gods who made frequent visits to the great Oceanos should on their return home have described the inhabitants of the land as giants, monsters, and demons. All right? A lot of it is allegorical, metaphorical. They don't really mean, have man, have fish, even though that might still be true. But a lot of the times when they put fish bodies on people, it meant they were seafarers. They would travel the ocean. A lot of misconceptions in that way. One sees, in the account given of these races, the origin of heraldry. There can be no great wonder that people, living in the great woods and daily occupied in hunting wild beasts, should have been somorphic in their notions. Mr. Catlin gives a picture of a chief dressed as a bear, like Hercules, just like Hercules, right? Where are they getting all these traditions, guys? This is what I'm trying to point out. We've been pointing out. And then all of a sudden they become a ferocious monster or bear, right? In the traditions. But what if they were represented like an Indian or chief dressed as a bear, just like Hercules did in the zodiac? Nothing could be more natural than to call their chiefs and tribes by the names of the animals which abounded among them. Hence, one is a serpent, another an eagle, another a beaver, and so on. The, the principle of totem is incipient, Indian, and then modern nobleman. Okay? Sorry, I skipped it. I skipped something. The principle of totem is incipient heraldry. There is but one difference between the ancient Indian and the modern nobleman. The Indian put his crest upon his back, and the nobleman put it upon his escutcheon. All right, so they put it somewhere else, not upon them, right? They have a shield or family crest, right? Uh, but the Indians put it on themselves. They always wore their crest, is what he's saying. There is one of the Oceanides, by means of whom the geography and river system of ancient America can be traced. It is Styx. Styx is the name of a principal river in the underworld, around which it flows 9 times, all right? America is the underworld, right? The west where the sun sets. Homer, as a river, it is a branch of Oceanos flowing from its tenth source. The river Cocytus is a branch. The myth is as follows. Styx, the daughter of Oceanus and Tethys, or of Erebus and Styx, a nymph who dwelt at the entrance of Hades, a woman in black with an urn in a lofty grotto supported by silver columns. Hesiod, by Pallas, the Titan. She became mother of Celos, Nice, Bia, and Kratos. She was first of the immortals, who took her children to Zeus to assist him against the Titans, and in return her children were allowed for her forever to live with Zeus. Styx herself became the divinity by whom most solemn oaths were sworn. And in oath Iris fetched a cup of water from Styx, and the god poured out the water. Zeus, by Styx, became father of Persephone, and Paetus, the father of Echidna. Polly. To locate this highly mythical personage, recourse must be had to the poetical astronomers. Poetical astronomy. is in fact the mythic geography of the ancients. Kurimeo says that the ancient astrologers fixed the eighth degree of the balance for the place of Styx. The balance is rather an equivocal sign, but it may be placed in the northwest of South America. The myth says that Styx lived at the entrance of Hades, at Cerberus is at the entrance of Hades, and he is constellated over the Caribbean Sea, which carries his name to this day. All right, Cerberus, Caribbean, that's what they're saying, sticks out to represent the Gulf of Texas. Look at this, look at this, Texas, TYX, look at that, Texas. This curiously brings Styx to a gulf that bears her name, the circuitous form of which answers well to the idea of Homer as flowing round the underworld 9 times, or in 9 bays. In this case, it is a branch of the ocean or a son of Oceanus, closely connected with Styx, and a figure equally mythical is the impersonated river called Acheron. Polly gives it thus: Acheron, a mythic river, a river of Hades, into which the Pyriphlegethon and Cocytus flow. Virgil makes it the chief river of the Tartarus, and from which Styx and Cocytus spring. Acheron is called the son of Helios and Gaia, or Ga, or Demeter. Remember, Demeter was a corn deity. It's like the corn mother. Changed to a river of hell, because he had refreshed the Titans with drink in their contest with Zeus. Esculapius was the son of Acheron and Orphne, or Gorgra. The Etruscans were acquainted with it. Now it will be remembered that in the tradition of the Eumenides, it is said they were the children of Acheron. Let the case of these rivers be put into a small compass. It runs thus: if Styx is the Gulf of Texas, if Acheron flows into it, and if Acheron is the biggest river of Tartary, listen to this. Tartary, where's Tartary? The Acheron must be the Mississippi. And if the Plegeton and Cocytus flow into the Acheron, they must be the Missouri and the Ohio. And the Eumenides, being the children of Acheron, they must have been the ancient inhabitants of the great valley of the Mississippi. Oh, the Mississippi mound built culture. Huh? Southeast Indians? This conclusion is proved to be correct by the circumstance that Professor Rafinsky, in his enumeration of the red races, gives the native name of the Missourian Indians as Oman or Oeman. The present identification of Oceanos as a mythic impersonation of America ought to be proved in every respect. It ought to be shown that the Greeks have used the word with that signification. It is so. Homer has the following lines: when down the smooth Oceanus impelled by prosperous gales by gallery once again, cleven the billows of the spacious deep, had reached the ocean isle. In this verse, the poet makes the gallery cross the ocean to the ocean isle. By the word ocean, Ocean, he evidently means ocean. The letters C has got softened into the diphthong, the same thing is observable in the word Aegean, as the sea or Aegean Sea. You don't really pronounce the O, which Neros and the Nereids reside. In this case, ocean softens to Oegean, right? Ocean is Aegean. That's what he's saying. All right, I get what he's saying now. It is natural to look for the Nereids and the Grecian Sea, but Pauli, the German lexicographer, has Aega, or Asia, as a golden wave palace on the depth of the sea, where dwell Poseidon and the Tritons. By no stretch of language can the Grecian Sea be called the depth of the sea. It implies great distance from Greece, all right? That's not what they were talking about. That's what they tell people. By comparison of terms, this Aega or Asia is seen to be the Aegean or ocean isle of Homer. There can be no doubt that the word has been a perplexity both to ethnologists and mythologists, and to all inquirers into the ancient things. the learned Bryant labors to show the extensive use of it in classical works for some great race that has spread itself abroad as the Ionim. In the Phoenician cosmogony, it stands at the head of the Phoenicians as Aeon or Eon. The Gnostics have the word Aeon as expressive of their powers and intelligence. It forms the name of the woman fish, which instructs the Babylonians and Egyptians as Oannes. The name is also found in one of the gods of Gaul at Clermont and Mont Morlan, and with the same fish attributes and forms as Onuava. In China, it is the top of the Chinese sovereigns as the three Huans, authors of letters, gold, and precious stones. But not only so, Mr. Schoolcraft gives a tradition of the Iroquois Indians, where the word is used for the native name of America itself. Listen, the shell of the turtle is expanded till it became a continent, Turtle Island, and it was named Ione. Look, Ione. Ione is the same words, guys. It's the same words. Aoeja, Aonia, Aonio. The same word can be detected in the common but mysterious Americanism, Yankee Doodle. Teolt is God in Mexico, so that Yankee Doodle is the god Oceanus or the ocean god. It is necessary here to note that the myths in this work are taken from Lempriere's classical dictionary, unless otherwise stated. All right, check out the sources he's quoting. All right, guys, you tell me. Want to go to chapter 6? You guys want to continue to chapter 6? I think you guys do, huh? So, real quick, let me see. Yeah. Okay, not so bad. Not so bad. You just joined us. We're in the book Researches into the Lost Histories of America, or the zodiac, shown to be an old terrestrial map in which the Atlantic isle is delineated so that light can be thrown upon the obscure histories of the earthworks and ruined cities of America. This is by William Stevens Blackett, 1884. All right. And we're going into chapter 6, right? There we go. All right. And we're going to, real quick, take a water break. All right. Water break, guys. Water break. Bathroom break, guys. Go ahead. Wow. And we continue in chapter 6 of this book. It says here Vishnu, the water god of the Hindus, corresponds in name, nature, and place with the Oceanos of Europe. So what is that basically telling you already, right? If Oceanos is America, then that means Vishnu is America too, right? Let's go. I wasn't going to read this chapter, but we're going to read it. Bonus. Don't get lost, Eric. Don't get all confused, man. There's ruined cities all over the world. It has been seen that the Greeks, in their mythic system of ancient geography, have impersonated America as the marine god Oceanus. It is just the same with the Hindus in India. The sages have the same symbolism exactly. The names themselves are the same. Vishnu is Oceanus, written in Sanskrit, Oceanu, All right. Then they have the same attribute of water, as Vishnu is the water god of India, and Oceanus reposes on the water. Then again, they both recline upon the sea serpent. All right. They both have the dragon, right, in the water, or they are the Drakan. Then again, they both recline upon the sea serpent. The pictures on page 60 are given for comparison, and they show that two branches of the Indo-European family have had the same ideal conception. They have both turned America into a divinity and have represented him in a like posture and with the same serpentine accompaniment. It will be observed, however, that the Hindu picture is much better drawn and is itself much more significant than that of Greece. Because we went over there. Both gods, according to the principle of the present work, located in America by the presence of the serpent. Now, remember my Origin of America videos, right? Amaru, what it means, land of the plum, land of the serpent, land of the plum, like it's matching, right? Even in our local stories and language, lingo, etymologies. In the in the Ptolemaic zodiac, the snake abounds all over what may be considered North America. The Draco, the dragon, the Draco, the serpent, and the Serpentarius taken together surround the region, creating a suspicion that this is what is meant by the symbolism of the serpent surrounding the whole earth. In the other picture, Vishnu is on the seven-headed Sesha serpent, a figure of great significance in Hindu mythology and antiquities. The picture now under notice is to be taken as a pictorial history. Such was the nature of old mythic drawings. Such were the picture writings of the North American Indians. Three personages appear in the scene besides the serpent, which stands for the land itself. Vishnu is the blue and water god of India. He rides the man bird, Garuda, the man bird, or the bird man. Sometimes he is identified with Ganesha, who is said to have had a paradise in Swetam Dwipa. Again, he is one of the 12 Adityas, or rays of the sun. As to, we'll go back to that. Oh, come on, load up. Okay. What relates to him in America, he is said to have been born between the Komuda and Ajana mountains, among waters in a land of darkness. He was born of a virgin in the house of a shepherd. Listen, he resides on the north shore of the Swetam Dwipa, or White Sea. He rescued the earth from sinking into hell. He had conflicts with the giants after his marriage with Lakshmi. Then he was born in India and assumed the shape of a tortoise. Oh, they must mean India Superior then. North America, Turtle Island. All right, go back to the images. The Lost Histories of America again says Oceanus on the sea monster or the dragon. Vishnu on the sea serpent. Okay, these are like bad drawings, but you guys have seen the depictions. Lakshmi is the consort of Vishnu and called Ada, Mia, Mother of the World. She is also called Remba or Sri. Brahma is the red god of India. Listen to this. Hey, Brahman. Bird, Britain, Brut, Brat, Bharat, Bharat, Bra. The red god of India, huh? He has a wife, Saraswati, and his Vahan is the goose. The sun is his image. He had his birth on a lotus from the navel of Vishnu. He has 5 heads, each of which is crowned and one of which was cut off. He formed Saturupa out of one half of his body. Swayambhuva sprang from his body. He fashioned the earth after it had sunk into hell. It takes a little or not a little study and thought to understand the present mythic picture and the histories which belong to it. But if anyone will take the trouble, he will find that the three characters now described represent Asiatic races which at some period of high antiquity have colonized America. Dodge the hijack, they've seen it in reverse, right? Where's Asia Major? Where's Asia Major? I know where Asia Minor is. Where's Asia Major? Where's the farthest east? Taking it in reverse, America's the true old world. Vishnu stands for the Chinese. Remember, Vishnu is Oceanos, Vishnu is America. So that's what I'm saying. It don't make sense that they would go into when he is America. Vishnu stands for the Chinese. Lakshmi is the Hindu Venus, who in the Greek system is turned into a serpent instead of sitting upon it. Brahma is a form of the primeval Brahma. There is hardly any difference between the Sanskrit and the Greek systems. Vishnu is Oceanus by name and nature. In the Greek pedigree, Oceanus is the son of Uranus. Urania is the name of Venus. In the European system, Uranus is the first king of the Atlantic Isle, and his histories will be traced in future chapters. In the Hindu system, those histories hang on the Brahma. He spreads out into five races, corresponding with his heads. In the Asiatic researches, he is clothed by Cronus. The histories, which will be traced in later chapters under the name of Kronos, belong equally to Brahma. What little difference there is between the two systems is reconciled when Varuna is taken into account. Varuna, in the god of the ocean, in the west, he rides upon a fish and is called the Lord of Punishments. It is true that this makes Varuna, in which the name of Uranus is found, a sort of competitor with Vishnu for the honor of marine deity. But there is exactly the same thing in the European system. Although Uranus is its first king, Poseidon is said to have had the Atlantic Isle allotted to him. The Hindus have a long series of traditions which must belong to America. They are the avatars or incarnations of Vishnu. If Vishnu himself is a representative of the hemisphere or any part of it, those avatars must be parts of American history. In the myth of Vishnu, it is said that he resided on the north of shores of the White Sea. The serpent on which he reclines must be located by the serpent of the zodiac. This puts Vishnu himself in the country north of modern Mexico. Again, north of modern Mexico. So where would that be, guys? North America. Hold on, guys. Sorry, guys. My dog literally ran in my room. It was like jumping on me and everything. Wouldn't get out, acting all crazy, and I'm like getting her feet tangled up in my headset and everything. Funny story. Sorry about that. Anyways, she's gone. Luna. Anyways, the Hindus have a long series of traditions which must belong to America. They are the avatar. We already read this, right? So that they're putting Vishnu again, north of modern Mexico, right? North America. He represents the tortoise. Remember, he's always seen on a tortoise. He's on Turtle Island. You guys ever seen the images of Vishnu? He's on a turtle. He got the peacock all around him too, but he's a lot of times represented on a turtle. All right. This puts, and it is there that are found the ruins and pyramids that attest the former presence of a religious and building race. It is certainly very remarkable that it is said in books relating to Mexico that the ancient name of the city of the gods was Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan. Whether that was the name of Vishnu or not must be left to fancy. It certainly is within the region of the serpent. The legends of the incarnations of Vishnu are used occasionally, and some of them are transcribed in other parts of this work, but it is thought advisable for the sake of completeness to give them here as histories connected with America. There are 9 of them, but in some works the number is extended to above 20, exhibiting 3 intercourse between America and India, or extended knowledge of its historical antiquities. Matsya, number 1. In the Satya age, all mankind was corrupt, except Satyavrata. The 7 rishis and their wives, by command of Vishnu, enter a spacious vessel accompanied by pairs of all animals. Vishnu, in the form of a fish, fixed the ark by a cable, a vast serpent to his horns, till the flood subsided. All right, you guys hear that? And he and Brahma slew a monster named Hyagriva, who, while Brahma was reposing at the end of a kalpa, stole the Vedas, and mankind had thus fallen into the ignorance and impiety. The demon's name was Danavas. All right, Danavas. Demons, are they really demons? Dan. What do we learn about the Danavas? Dan, the tribes of Dan, Dan. The world was repeopled with the pious descendants of Satyavrata and his companions. Number 2, Kurma. In the Satya age, to restore man, Vishnu became incarnate in the form of a tortoise. Okay? In this shape, he sustained the mountain Mandara, placed on his back to serve as an axis, whereon the gods and demons, the vast serpent Vasokis serving as a rope, churned the ocean to recover the Amrita, or beverage of immortality. Varuha, in the Satya age. Number 3, a four-handed boar with a crescent on the tusk, containing in its concavity an epitome of the earth, which had been submerged in the ocean for its iniquities. A Daitya named Hiranyaksha, or the Golden-Eyed, passed a long life in austerities in honor of Brahma, who appeared to him, and he asked universal monarchy. It was granted, but he forgot the hog. The Daitya seized the earth and carried it into the ocean. Vishnu now appeared as a boar, divided into the abyss, and after contest of 1,000 years slew the monster and restored the earth on the points of his tusk. Number 4, Narasingha, or man-lion. In the Satya age, 2 ethereal warders of Vishnu's palace were cursed into banishment for insolence to Sanaka, who with 7 rishis approached to worship. Lakshmi wanted to see a battle, and Vishnu got it up for her. The sentence of eternal exile upon earth was mitigated to 7 transmigrations. During it, if faithful, crime would be expiated. If preferred, they might have 3 as Daityas, as enemies of Vishnu, taking the consequences. They chose the latter, and first became Daityas of the 3rd and 4th avatars. And in character of Hiranjakasipa, one was slain by Vishnu as half man, half lion. To account for this, there is another legend. The Daitya performed for 10,000 years austerities for Brahma and got exemption from all ills everywhere. His arrogance got so great that Vishnu inspired the Daitya's virtuous son Pavalatha to a controversy about omnipresence. Is then the deity here? Cried the father, and smote the pillar, which rent and showed the monster Narasingha, who attacked Hiranyaksipa, and in 1 hour cut him up. Number 5, Vamana, or dwarf. In the Tirtya age, Mahabali, a virtuous monarch, omitted offerings to the gods. Vishnu resolved to punish him. He condescended, he condescended to become the son of Kasyapa, and Aditi, a brother of Indra, assuming the form of a dwarf. He asked Mahabali a gift of the universe. As the water fell on his hand, a sign of gift, he expanded and filled the world. Vishnu at one of the three steps deprived Bali of heaven and earth, leaving him Patala. Number 6, Krishna. He was the most splendid avatar of Vishnu. He is Vishnu and Narayana. He manifested himself in a degree of power and glory far exceeding any of the other forms of Vishnu. Some call him an impious wretch, an incarnate demon. Are we talking about Thoth? The peacock, the most beautiful, the one that fell, the most beautiful angel that fell? Huh. Some call him an impious wretch, an incarnate demon, now expiating his crimes in hell. His mortal parents were Vasudeva and Devaki. 7 and 8. The three Ramas, Balarama, Parasurama, and Ramachandra. There is confusion in the description of these three characters. They are all famed as great warriors and as youths of perfect beauty. Number 9. Buddha. In the midst of a wild and dreary forest, trees and flowers and roots, lions and tigers alone and frequented by the Munis, resided Buddha, author of happiness and portion of Narayana. Before the subject advances, it may be necessary to furnish satisfactory evidence that these incarnations are really connected with America. The teaching is new, and it is fair to object that the Hindu god Vishnu is one of the gods of Hindustan and nothing else. It may be considered a stretch of fancy to associate an idol of India with the proof is but the proof is forthcoming, and that in a form the most convincing. All the avatars of Vishnu are represented in a pictorial form. Some of them, some of the pictures are more instructive than the stories which are told concerning them. Particularly is this the case with the fourth incarnation, that of Narasingha, the man lion. The tale itself is quite unintelligible. Who two wanderers of Vishnu palace might be would remain an eternal secret from anything that can be gleaned from the tradition. But when the picture is introduced, it becomes a conclusive proof that the incarnation belongs to Mexico and to no other country under heaven. Accompanying the Narasingha or lion man, who is engaged in putting to death a person, is a picture of a Mexican sacrifice at the summit of Tecalis. In that scene, the bloody Mexican priests are seen holding the figure of a victim, and the chief priest is tearing open the breast of the man to remove the heart to be presented to the idol, which is in an adjoining edifice. Let the reader carefully compare the two pictures, and he will come to the conclusion that they belong to the same subject. The Hindu Narasingha well represents the monstrous priest. The two pillars of the Indian picture are counterparts of the Mexican temples. Right? The stone altar on which the victim is placed answers to the stone of sacrifice on the Tecalis or the pyramids in America. Then, to make the comparison exact, the man lion is opening the breast of his victim precisely in the same manner as the priest, a form of execution so peculiar to Mexico as to be found in the customs of no other ancient people. Now they're saying man lion, right? Would they be talking about a man jaguar? Man lion, jaguar warrior? Could just be calling a jaguar lion or a tiger, like they did many times, many instances. The man lion, huh? The man lion. So this is so peculiar to Mexico, huh? The argument is that if one of the incarnations is American, all the others must be so too. All right? This is held to be sufficient evidence of the teaching of the present chapter, and it makes the following curious extracts reliable in relation to America. Vishnu has many names. In the Puranas and other Sanskrit works, he is often called Hari, Bhagavat, Madhava, and others. Besides that, all of the above incarnations are parts of himself. This can only be taken to signify that all the names connected with Vishnu are either ethnological or geographical, as belonging to America in prehistoric times. America. Most of the names, however, can be seen to belong to migrations from America into India itself, into Hindustan, who are the ancient Nagas, or plum serpent people, huh? The plum serpent, the Drakons. Most of the names, all right, so into India itself, and they can be traced by many routes, some direct from the east, some across Europe, and some through Africa. In the Asiatic researches, there are a great number of extracts from Sanskrit works which can be used to throw light upon ancient America. Some of these extracts may be transcribed with advantage in volume 8, 246, or page 246. It is said the sacred idols in the west, of which Svetam Dvipa is the principal and the most famous, are in fact the Holy Land of the Hindus. Where is the Holy Land? And this mythical place that was literally representing America, where he's been telling you, hey, it correlates with what we know about the true Holy Land. There are the fundamental and mysterious transactions of the history of their religion. Okay, sorry. There, the fundamental and mysterious transactions of the history of their religion took place, all right, in ancient America. Again, in volume 11, page 92, it is said all the avatars or principal emanations of Vishnu came originally from Sweta Dvipa. There are many forms or manifestations of Bhagavat or Vishnu or Muni, but the form which resides in the Sweta Dvipa is the primitive one. Rama and Narasingha are complete forms or Muni. But Krishna, the most powerful king of the Sweta Dvipa, is the most perfect and complete of all Vishnu's forms. For this purpose, Vishnu from Patala rejoins the body of Radhiseswara, the lord of Radha, who dwells in the Sweta Dvipa with the famous snake Sesha, a portion of his essence. The gods sent these portions of their own essences to be consolidated into the person of Krishna, who was going to be incarnated at Gokala. In the same great work, there are many extracts which disclose the fact that in olden times there must have been intercourse between India and America. All right, remember who is Buddha or Guatemala, Buddha, who's his mom? Maya, right? So there was definitely intercourse. Again, seeing it in reverse, we went from here to there, brought a lot of that culture, all these traditions, religion, ceremonies, mythology. A specimen may be given shortened. In the Padma Purana section, Patala, it is said Sutta relates the wonderful deeds of Ramachandra, who came originally from the White Island, Sweta. Ramachandra, having a self-moving car, performed it in a few days in company with Mahadewa or Sambhu. They had a Muni with them whose wife had gone to Tamobhaga, Giri, where they were going. They soon arrived in the land of darkness. In the middle is Narayana Pura, and a million suns, the paradise of Vishnu and Lakshmi. None but those who have obtained internal knowledge can enter. On all sides were rishis and munis performing puja. The four Vedas reside there, and the Romashadaya, descendants of the holy Romachas, Rama and Siva, Sambhu, make puja to Achyuta, or the incorruptible God. Utah, Utah, the Narada, come from heaven with his hair tied up. Sorry, then Narada came from heaven with his hair tied up, with a guitar and a small crooked staff. Sambhu told him that Rama wanted to see the place. Narada went in and announced them. Vishnu and Lakshmi, with myriads of yogis, came out to meet them. Vishnu asked who Rama was. Sambhu said, a portion of your essence. They go in to see Lakshmi in an inner apartment. Sri Devi said, "You are handsome, but Sita, your consort, is a perfect beauty." They then left the mountains and reached Swadadadhi or Pushkara. To this may be added an exceedingly interesting account of the Sesha serpent and of Vishnu reposing on it. This scene is described in the Vishnu Purana in the following terms. It is a part of the geography of the Puranas or a description of the earth. After an account of the Patalas, which will be hereafter identified with other parts of North America, the writer proceeds, "Below the seven Patalas is the form of Vishnu, proceeding from the quality of darkness, which is called Sesha, and B, he is the great serpent on which Vishnu sleeps during the interval of creation, and upon whose numerous heads the world is supported. The Puranas make him one with Balarama or Sankasura, who is an impersonation or incarnation of Sesha, blending the attributes of the serpent and the demigod in their description, the excellences of which neither Daityas nor Danavans can fully enumerate. This being is called Ananta by the spirits of heaven and is worshipped by the sages and by gods. He has 1,000 heads, which are embellished with the pure and visible mystic sign, and B, with the swartika, with the swastika, swartika, the swastika, a particular diagram used in mystic ceremonies. And the jewels in his crest give light to all the regions. For the benefit of the world, he deprives the asuras of their strength. He rolls his eyes fiercely, as if intoxicated. He wears a single earring, a diadem, and rests upon each brow, and shines like the white mountains, topped with flame. He is clothed in purple raiment, and ornamented with a white necklace, and looks like another Kailasa, with a heavenly Ganga, or Ganja, Ganga, flowing down its precipices. In one hand he holds a plow, and in the other a pestle, and it is attended by Varuni, the goddess of wine, who is his own embodied radiance. From his mouth at the end of the kalpa proceeds the venom fire that, impersonated as Radha, who is one with Balarama, devours the three worlds. Sesha bears the entire world like a diadem upon his head, and he is the foundation on which the seven patalas rest. His power, his glory, his forms, his nature cannot be described, cannot be comprehended by the gods themselves. Who shall recount his might, who wears his whole world like a garland of flowers, tinged of a purple dye by the radiance of the jewels of his crest? When Ananta, he, he eyes rolling with intoxication, yawns, then the earth with all her woods and mountains, and seas and rivers, trembles. Gandharvas, Apsararas, no, Apsarasas, Siddhas, Kinaras, Uragas, and Chanavas, or Kanavas, Khan, are unequal to him. His praise, and therefore he is called the infinite Ananta, the imperishable. The sandal paste that is ground by the wives of the snake gods is scattered abroad. By his breast he sheds perfume around his skies, around the skies, sorry. This is very this very beautiful and highly poetical description of the Sesha serpent demands a little comment. The Sesha serpent of the Hindus has to be compared with the Greek echidna, as Oceanus reposes on one, so Vishnu reposes on the other. It is Ptolemaic zodiac which serves to locate them both, as the region lying along the west coast of North America. California, west coast. It will be remembered that Echidna is a monster. In the upper part, she is a beautiful woman. In the lower, she is a snake. She is mother of all the other monsters. In like manner, in the Hindu system, the Sesha serpent is the foundation on which the seven patalas rest. Turned into historical geography, it shows that Mexico was the most important part of America in the Mythic ages. Echidna's monstrosity has its parallel in the 1,000 heads of the Sesha. Echidna's beauty has its parallel in the oriental splendor and exaggerated beauty assigned to the Sesha. The idea got by this document is that the country of Mexico must have been a very grand and imposing state at the time to which the description belongs. This can easily be believed from the remains it has left. And you guys already saw the images we showed of Teotihuacan, right? How it used to look. As the Hindu mythology has never been utilized for the elucidation of history, it is not at all unlikely that the reading public will be slow to believe that the interesting extracts given in this chapter can belong to ancient America and especially to Mexico. It may be necessary, therefore, to adduce two or three things which will afford an opportunity to judge aright at the application of the subject. In one of these extracts, it is said that Svetam Dvipa was the holy land of the Hindus. There, the fundamental and mysterious transactions of the history of their religion took place. I remember that that place is supposed to be America. This is certainly a most extraordinary statement, and it may be challenged, but it must be recollected that this statement relates only to the race called Hindus. There is abundant evidence that the Hindus were strangers in India. Nonus in the Dionysica gives of their parent Indus the giant, and Diodorus Siculus speaks of the Oceanides of the western parts as a part of the population of India in his time. All right, this is big, what I just understood there, that the actual ancient Hindus were strangers to India, the real India or America, India superior. There was a western population of India in his time. Remember the three Indias? Under these circumstances, it is quite credible that the Hindus could have brought into Hindustan an oceanic religion. Pictures are vocal. They often tell tales when words are unintelligible. A picture is here given of a Hindu place of worship, such as is found at this day on the plains of India. It is said of these temples. So it says Pyramid of Pantla, all right, that's in Mexico, Hindu coil. That they're exceedingly ancient. So these temples are exceedingly ancient. None of them are put at a less age than 5,000 years. They are called coils, a word which is used on some of the Hindu descriptions of Patala. Okay, I guess Papantala? Wait, Papantala. Let me make sure. That sounds like an American word. El Tajin, Papantala. There we go. Okay, guys, so you can see. So El Tajin, and I just saw Paplanta. Let's see it. Papantla. All right. That's where it's located, Papantla. So that's what this pyramid is. Again, here is the drawing that they just showed us. Look, the pyramid of Paplanta. I'll zoom in a little bit more. You see that? I've never even heard of this one, but El Tajin I do know. And El Tajin, let me go back. It's kind of what it looks like today. You guys can see very Asian, Oriental looking, but this is original to the Americas. And that's what they're saying, comparing to the temples of Hindustan, because the Nagas are coming from America. They did bring this technology, this advanced knowledge over there. Who were the architects, guys? Come on. We got the past videos. All right. Again, I just wanted to make sure, right? Papantla. I ain't trying to be guessing like other people, conjecturing. So they are called coils, a word which is used on some of the Hindu descriptions of Patala. So they're saying they're describing this place in America in the Hindu traditions. Accompanying this picture for the purpose of comparison is a copy of one of the ancient ruined pyramids which are found in the region of ancient Mexico. Most of the pyramids are very far advanced towards a state of decay, but that of Papantla serves well to put it into a comparison with a Hindu coil. The resemblance of the two temples is enough to admit of a fair argument that the Hindu coil was built upon a Mexican model. It was built on what Mexican model, though more highly decorated and improved. So let's go Hindu coil, right? Hindu, let's see what comes up. All right. This was what? based on the pyramids of Mexico, just a little more decorated and advanced. Okay? This is not as old as ancient America, guys. Remember that these statues are holding corn. Remember the statues are holding corn, right? The deities are holding corn. I've shown you the videos, right? Okay. Let's see if they give it to us. Hey, well, where's the statues we want to see? You know what I want to see? It's the ones on the temples, right? The ones on the temples we've shown in the videos I have. But they're literally holding corn, guys. Let me see if we can find one. You guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they hate it. Oh, there we go. There you go. So you don't think I'm just making things up. All right. So you don't think I'm just making things up. All right. Let me zoom in. Do you see what's on her hand? That's corn. That's an ear of corn, guys. All right. An ear of corn right there. This is another one. That's corn. And of course, that's why, these temples, of course, they look like the pyramids. All right. They got that maize. That's not an acorn. Wake up. Let people tell you whatever and you believe it without really using your eyes or your logic or your senses. That's corn, guys. Corn. Wake up. Corn. Different types of corn that look like acorns too. Ancient corn look like acorn. I've shown you guys this. All right, just like the Birdman, right? If we go back, Birdman, Mesopotamia. Birdman, Mesopotamia. He's holding corn too. He got corn in his hand. Corn. The Birdman. Corn. They're all holding corn. They're bringing civilization to the world. This miracle plant that doesn't grow wild. It needs the help of humans to grow. Corn wouldn't grow wild. If we stop growing it, it'll go extinct, guys. Check out my corn videos. It helped civilize. It helped turn hunters and gatherers, people that was roaming around, into settlers, settle down and create civilization, have time, reproduce a large amount of food, and agriculture. All right, that's why it seems so special. They brought the corn. The Birdman gods brought the corn. Okay, let's go back. So these pyramids, right? They're resembling the Mexican pyramids. All right, it's based off a model. It's based off Mexican models. All right. The whole world shall know soon, guys. This is gonna be mainstream soon. You guys are ahead of the game. It is worthy of notice also that one of the incarnations of Vishnu may furnish evidence that the religion of India has been molded or modified at some very ancient period by the arrival of races from beyond the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. In the present chapter, the legends of the incarnations of Vishnu have been copied from the excellent work of Major Moore, Major Moore, who is the English authority on Hindu mythology, but in a French work which treats of the same subject. The legends of those incarnations are very different. The pictures are the same, but the names and stories differ. In that work, one of the incarnations is called Juggernaut. Look at that, Juggernaut, Juggernaut, Juggernaut. The mention of Juggernaut is the present relation is highly significant, and it throws great light upon the present question. In this chapter, a picture has been given, which leaves no manner of doubt upon the mind that the Mexican religion must have been introduced into India. It had to have been, it was. Who are the ancient Nagas? My Naga? It is true that the modus operandi of human sacrifice practiced in Mexico, dash the hijack, has not been found in Hindustan. Dash the hijack. Not everybody was doing that. But the other hand, the religion of Juggernaut, and his car was, if anything, more barbarous and more cruel than even the sacrifices of the Tecalis, or the pyramids of Mexico. At any rate, it is the same principle of religion, blood, self-sacrifice, and unflinching self-torture. The elder part of the present generation can well remember the fearful scenes which were enacted on the plains of India or Hindustan when the horrid car was drawn about and the senseless multitude assembled in countless crowds to throw themselves beneath the wheels of that monstrous vehicle of death. Says here parts of the play make zodiac as a map of North America in the Mythic ages. Back up a little bit. All right, this is North America. They're telling you. Look at that. So zodiacs representing America, guys. It's about to get deep, right? This book's really about to get deeper, a little deeper. It's interesting to see the perspectives of past people and different anthropologists, and see what sources they dig up to correlate what they correlate, and then we can grab that knowledge with what we've learned and our own research and put it all together. But pretty interesting what they're doing, or he's doing. Part of the Coptic zodiac of a map of North America in the Mythic ages. These symbolized places is what he was saying. Auroras. Okay. And that's the end of chapter 6, guys. And I'm probably gonna end it right there. This has already been about an hour and a half. So good time to stop. Don't want to make them too long so people can sit down and watch them. All right, so I just want to show this real quick. This was my first cover I was gonna do for this video, the real Atlas. Look at that. But we actually covered that in the first part. So make sure to catch the first part. And again, this was the second part of this reading of this book. We read a couple chapters here, 4, 5, and 6. And we'll get on to the next chapters. And it gets pretty interesting as we go, guys. All right. Hold on. But thanks for tuning in again. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen to me read. It's always fun to be able to read this with you and learn at the same time as you and correlate and do some commentary. Pretty interesting book. It may get a little boring for some people who are not into the history and mythology of other ancient nations, but the correlation is so cool, I think, and it makes sense to me, and it correlates with a lot of the research. I mean, we already know, guys, this is Atlantis. We already know this is the true old world, right? But just more and more correlation that a lot of these old world cultures and beliefs and mythology is coming out of ancient America, all right? Including the Nagas, including Hindustan. It's not older. People try to argue me about this all the time. Oh no, the Hindu, no, it's not older. It's not older, guys. Okay? Yeah, this is a pretty great book. I read it about a year ago and I had forgotten about it. Definitely want to get back into it. Um, and so again, we have the playlist. Go to my playlist tab. You can find researches into the lost history of America. It's only 2 videos right now, but if you missed part 1, which is really good, it has a little extra bonus added on part 1 where we read a little bit from the book Shadow of Atlantis, where we're showing the pre-Egyptians are at our so-called Atlantis or from South America, they're saying, right? So check out part 1 if you missed it, so you can have the full reading, so you can be up to date with this book. We're gonna definitely continue reading it. Future videos, maybe even this week. Along the week, we're gonna probably read something else tomorrow and the next day, but we'll probably get back into this book before the weekends. All right, so make sure to be in tuned. Make sure you have your notifications on. Make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for all the support you guys provide. I'm glad you guys excited about these kind of readings. I'd be thinking maybe this is too boring for people. Maybe that's why I hold on to these books and I think about it like, nah, I'm not. I don't feel like reading this. 'Cause I don't know if they'll take it, but I see as we go, I see a lot of people more open to learning and understanding what's being said in these different books by these different authors. Again, we don't just go off one source. If you're new to my channel, catch up on all the presentations. It's been a long journey in the last 7, 8 years, you know, and I appreciate everything. And I'm just grateful to Hawa for the opportunity to be able to do this and help uncover the hidden history or the lost history, right? research into the lost history of America, as the name of the book says, right? Appreciate everybody here. Shout out to all the new members joining my club. Shout out to all the patrons if you want to support me that way. And yeah, thanks for coming through today, guys. Hey, Mad Preacher. Hey, Joseph, hit me up, man. What's up? What we getting into today, if anything? All right, man. Y'all, you guys take care. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow, wow. Let's see. Oh, wait, wait, wait. Why don't I have the music ready? Why don't I have the music ready? Huh? Why don't I have the music ready? Hold up, guys. I gotta go out with some music. I just gotta go out with some music. Hold up. I need to go out with Rain Dance. Where's Rain Dance? Hold on. I'm looking for Rain Dance. Shout out to what's his name? Bezo Breeze. Bezo Breeze. Come on, where are you? All right. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Hawa, hawa, hawa.